Then finally, I did manage to reach out to Koala Esbelto, the Brazilian winner of the tournament. I asked him for some words. I said, hey, could you give us a few words about how your tournament went? And he responded, hey. And I haven't heard anything back since. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the official podcast dedicated to all things high-level teamfight tactics. Today is May 31st, 2024, and this is episode number 48, the Tactician's Cup number 2 review. This time I turned my microphone on. I actually did the intro previously without the mic, but I unmuted, thankfully. I'm your host, Frodan. I'm joined once again by Bryce, Esportslaw Blum. Bryce, how you doing on this fine close to a wonderful month?
It's sunny out in Seattle. It's beautiful. My children did not sleep last night, which is less beautiful, but... Tonight's another night.
Me neither, actually. It's hey, twins.
But that's a little bit more like That's like par for the course for you. If Levi sleeps through the night right now, you need to immediately get that baby studied for science because that would be next level.
That would be next level. He's sleeping like 20 minutes. I call him the 20-minute tyrant. It's kind of a joke. But, yeah. I'm sorry I didn't get much sleep, but hopefully this podcast will be reinvigorating for you.
Always.
That's right. We're going to be reviewing the Tactician's Cup for this past weekend, and we have special guests for the first time ever, and that's what we like to do with these reviewed episodes, get to know newer faces as well as some of the olds that return. This week, we got MeanMisterKien, who you may have seen as a Twitter content person for TFT. He writes guides all the time. He's also a former Rioter, actually one of the best performing rioters ever in TFT, both when he was there and now out, and also a former writer for LOL Esports and a bunch of other things too. So Kien, welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself on top of whatever I said for anybody who's never seen you before?
Thank you for having me. Aside from the nice introduction you had for me, I feel like you really nailed most of the bases. I would say the only other really unique things are, I think I might be the oldest player, or I'm one of the oldest players in the scene at 34. 34.
Yeah, you're not even the oldest person on this fucking podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
one of the oldest players in the scene at 34-ish. I have a book of poems out. I do a lot. I had to put a TV show out, so I've done a lot of weird things. Part of it while I was at Riot, part of it after Riot, and I'm currently unemployed, which is why if you look up my LOLTest profile, I have like 1,100 games. So.
Yeah, you have Soju level games, which is crazy.
Yeah, if you're looking for a writer or a producer, I'm really in the throes of looking for a job. So help me out. If you are able to help me find a job, I will give you a coaching session in TFT where you and I can both just lower that elo a little bit. I can yell at you. You can learn why I'm MeanMisterKien. It'll be great.
Yeah, actually, I won't work on Bryce because Bryce is, I think, the highest ranked player at his law firm. But maybe some other people who are looking to employ any people that want writers out there, definitely hit up Kien. Thanks for coming on the show. Our second guest, a person who is a little bit on the other side of the spectrum. I think Panny, you're how old are you, Panny?
I'm 23.
Yeah, there you go. He's part of the younger crowd. Welcome to the show, Panny. People may see your TikTok guides. And so you're not really necessarily as acquainted, perhaps, on Twitch compared to some of the other people. But why don't you introduce yourself for people who have never seen you before?
Yeah, Kien is just saying like, oh, I have this book and I produce a show. I make TikToks. So that's my thing. And I sing a lot on my stream. Future Worlds winner, either this set or next set.
Ah, I see. So you're actually taking competitive very seriously. You're not just like a content guy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. I was like, I should make content because I'm going to like play this game competitively. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I think I should have just never made content, hit rank 1, and then started streaming. And then that probably would have been the best course of action. But now I'm the TikTok guy, so I make TikToks. I put Che1 in my videos. It's just me talking and then Che1 dancing under.
I see.
That's how I do it.
Well played. I don't see many people actually try to make TikTok a thing and TFT. They usually do the copy paste. When I did TikTok, I did that. I copy paste like a lot of my YouTube shorts. Robin does that as well. So are you like TikTok main? And if so, how does TikTok do, or how does TFT do on TikTok? Is it actually a thriving community?
Dude, it might be like the thriving community of like gold players. Like gold to plat players are probably just on TikTok looking at my guides. Like I put out something on Malphite reroll. I like recently I've been like on a misinformation kind of. Well, I made a guide on Malphite reroll, Kha'Zix reroll. I just like say like wrong items sometimes.
And it does well. It goes nuts.
Or do you like break the fourth wall and tell people, or are you just fucking
Oh, no.
people and
No, I'm like, like Setsuko played Malphite reroll and he went first 2 times in Challenger. And I photoshopped, he went fifth both times, but I photoshopped it. It was like 1-1 plus 45 LP. And I'm like, oh shit, you gotta play it with double Gatsu's BT. Like, fuck it, it's really good. And then like,
wait, no, I actually saw this TikTok.
This guy's the actual noob tricker.
I saw this TikTok.
The discussion for all the history of TFT was this guy all fucking long.
The video is actually hilarious because he's so serious and educational about it, and he's lying. And Setsuko's in the back just going, no, just go, yes, just like screaming in the background. And then Panny is just like saying like, Malphite reroll is like a composition that Setsuko was playing at high level challenger. Here are the best in slot items, and it's juxtaposed with Setsuko just grunting and screaming in the background.
Wait, do people come at you like with receipts in your comments, mad about the fact that you cost them LP?
Yes. Wait, someone in the chat is like, this is total bait. I went 7th in platinum. Do not play, and it has like hundreds of likes.
wait, but some people are like, I just went top 4 with Malphite reroll. This shit's good. And I'm both sides of the spectrum. Also, the trick is on TikTok, if there's like negative words, it doesn't even have to be like that negative. It's just like, man, this comp sucks. It's like I have to approve it before it gets posted. So I'll look at those and then I'll be like, man, this comp sucks. I went 8th. This is a bait. I'm like, yeah, I'm not approving that.
Oh
so
my God.
Only the positive comments are being posted and
dude,
hopefully more Malphite rerolls being played.
Wow.
You should work for some U.S. media outlets. Man, amazing. Okay, well, 2 people in contention for writing jobs here on the podcast. Anyways, we're here to talk less about TikTok tech, which I think is that's a new fun thing. TFT TikTok tech. We're here to talk about the event of what we just covered on this podcast, Tactician's Cup number 2, which is 2 out of 3 of the official events for the competitive circuit for North America, or at least the Americas now. Before we do that, though, we always want to cover some of the news of what's happening around TFT. So the first thing is that the new patch came out, and if you can call it a patch, people are just saying like nothing has really functionally changed. Kien, have you played games? You're a big volume guy. Have you got games on this patch? Has anything really meaningfully changed besides some of the small nerfs?
Yeah, I've been like mindlessly playing games this patch. I don't know, it's like most people it is pretty much the exact same thing. I haven't noticed a significant shift. I think if anything, it feels like Duelist is for some reason a little weaker, and Syndra's a little stronger. I couldn't really tell you why Duelist suddenly feels a little weaker, but that has been my observation.
Is it the Kiana nerf?
The Kiana nerf,
it's just preserving a lot less HP in the early game?
It's less about the early game tempo, because I think Duelist is always going to tempo based around augments and less around like whether you're like the Kiana 2 obviously helps, and if you're hitting Kiana 2, you're still generally going to tempo pretty decently. But like again, Duelist just comes down. It's a very heavy augment reliant comp. So it's more when you're hitting endgame now that I'm noticing that the Duelist comp is starting to fall off. I don't even know if the numbers reflect this, but it's just anecdotally, it feels like Duelist is a little stronger. Maybe it's because people are starting to position Ashe properly. Like this will kind of told everybody what you should be doing a little more on the Ashe comp.
What should you be doing?
Well, I mean, the things he was saying was basically you should slam IE instead of Last Whisper.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's just being one of the big things, and then just sticking on Aphelios for a lot longer. So I think people are just transitioning a lot smoother on the Ashe comp, and they're able to stabilize on it a lot better. The Syndra comp being stronger, I think can be a difficult matchup for Duelist. A lot of that just comes down to a stat check. Like if the Lee Sin can just tank forever, then you're going to win that fight. But if it can't, then you just Syndra the same side, you just blast Lee and you just win the fight. But that would be my general overview in terms of like just a few micro differences. So it's like if Duelists were averaging, like it's a very small difference in how they're placing. I don't think the patch has changed much at all. I've noticed people aren't really playing as much. I think a lot of it's because it feels very similar to the last patch, so it's a little boring. But hopefully things will shift. Like, you know, TFT does have a way if you let things incubate for long enough, the meta does just evolve on its own. So maybe over the weekend we'll start seeing other things crop up. But as of right now, it does feel very much more of the same.
Yep. Okay. Panny, have you gotten games in this patch? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's the same. Like Duelist feels a little weaker, I think, because Syndra 2 got buffed. Or they said Syndra 2 got buffed. I don't know like the actual numbers.
Slight buff. Syndra 1 got a slight nerf. They reworked some of her scaling to try and compensate. I mean, Darius did get nerfs. Kiana got nerfed. That does hurt Duelist a little bit. Story Champion is no longer steamrolling every lobby. That's a big change. If you guys who were watching my stream right now previously were rolling into this, we watched the the Summit Invitational, the TOC Summit Invitational, which was checkmate, and checkmate it was because one person hit Story Champion on 2-1, and that was the tournament. So those augments got nerfed. Lucky Paws taken down a peg. Garen taken down a peg, which is a good thing.
Nerfed?
Lucky Paws, yeah, they got nerfed like ever so slightly. So in general, not too much, but maybe making the outliers less good. And if you look at the data suggests it is more balanced. So we'll see. This is not the patch that's coming up for Tacticians Cup 3, though, that you guys will be trying to compete in. There's going to be a potential other patch that might be big and wide sweeping. Who knows? We'll see. Okay, definitely looking forward to see if anything can change there in the meta. In the meantime, the other piece of news, officially launched now, is a new website. I thought this was pretty fun. TFTstocks.com. For any of you guys who have a little bit too much free time and are a little bit perhaps too online for your own good, you can go ahead and trade TFT players as stocks based on their LP and their leaderboard. And you get to manage your portfolio, and you are ranked based off your portfolio value. And if it sounds ridiculous, because it is, you can buy and sell dish soap stock, you can buy and sell soju stocks, and based on their LP trending up or down, their value goes up, and your portfolio goes up. So we get to see who actually, perhaps, is a little bit too engaged with the TFT community, but really knows all the players through and through. Bryce, have you seen this at all?
I saw the when it got posted on the subreddit, and I just kind of chuckled to myself. You actually could get huge edge in this if you were really paying attention to like who had a better beat on the patch and buying and selling stock based on that. Then you could crush. Is it playing for anything? Do you
No, it's purely for fun. I think it's just going to be like seasonal things at all. Like, because I think he doesn't. I think the maker of it, Brain Cell, doesn't want to make it like actual prize money like that, because then there's manipulation. People can buy themselves and then go on a big climb, or theoretically see a bunch of people buying on them and run it down. So you don't want to tamper with that too much. But I will say one thing: I did buy a lot of soju stock for the snapshot, because the beta of this was out before snapshots for Tactician Cup number 2, and I did not make that much money because Soju did not run it up. So sadly, my one foray into stocks reminded me why I am not a day trader, and it did not.
This guy became a day trader for a day and decided to push it all in the middle on Soju. Monk.
I'll end on Soju and Setsuko and a little bit of Phoenix. My best payoff was Phoenix. Surprisingly enough.
Does it again.
So you just always like all in Setsuko when he's like 1k LP, and then you just sell him when he hits 1500, like infinite money glitch?
I mean, yes, but he's not there very often, and so what do you do in the meantime? Like you just wait for that the whole time. Other people are actively trading. yeah.
The probably most consistent bet, he'll always hit 1500 again. Always.
It is true. Okay, so definitely check that if you want to have fun. In the meantime, we mentioned this. The other tournament that was happening this week as well is the Tournament of Champions Summit Invitational. This is what is equivalent to MSI for League of Legends, the mid-season invitational, which is kind of like this is usually a replacement of the mid-set finale. Now that TFT doesn't have an actual 0.5 set, like 9.5, 8.5, 7.5, we don't have tournaments that wrap up the set. China decides to host a big tournament, $30,000 prize pool, and invite the best performing players historically in recent memory, as well as the highest seeded Chinese players. So it was top 8 players in points for China based on their qualifier points, plus some Chinese invitational seeds, plus the top seeds from other regions. And from North America, we sent Riri, Play, Dissoap, and Malala, and all 3 made it to the final lobby. Padeball was the only EU seed to make it to the top 8, and he actually won the event today. So congratulations to him. Hey, EU finally wins something. In 4 years of TFT, they finally did it, Bryce.
Yeah, blind squirrels and acorns, broken clocks, rice twice a day. Pick your metaphor. No, I mean, look, in all seriousness, we always knew that EU had good players. It's not like anyone has ever argued otherwise. And I don't even think anyone thinks EU is bad. The only take that seems to really bother people is when we say NA over EU, which is just a fact. That's just a fact of life, baby. And you guys can be better than us than in basically every other esport out there. We get like Call of Duty and like a little bit of other stuff, but for the most part, EU dominates NA in most esports, but on TFT. NA is better at TFT than EU. The result of this tournament doesn't really change that for me. The only thing that could change that for me would be overall EU consistently performing up to the level of NA in the big international tournaments. And even this one, sure, you won, but you got one person in the final lobby. It's checkmate format, pretty high variance. If you had asked who had the better performance in this tournament, the answer has to be an A, right? Wouldn't it be insane to think just because EU gets the winner on the final day that they had the better performance in this tournament?
I mean, that's what I said, but
that's not. I don't think that's how math works, personally. But hey.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of fans out there that have been kind of clamoring, foaming at the mouth for any result from EU to get. Look, listen, they're out of bullets, man. Their ammo's running low, and they needed something. So congratulations. And by the way, the way PannyBall won the tournament was really cool outside of Story Champion. I'm talking about, like, he played Bard reroll and got like a cool win there. One game I like to talk about is that there's a Lilia augment randomization game. So he got 5-2 augment instead of as a second augment. 5-2, he got a second augment. He took Golden Egg at 5-2 at 100 HP and then win streaks the rest of stage 5 and almost closes the game at 100 HP with a Golden Egg on his bench. He actually wins the game. He loses one fight and then wins the next fight after. Never hatches Golden Egg and wins with it on the bench. That's pretty hype, man. I don't know. I've never seen that. I don't know if we'll ever see that. Like, I know a lot of players who wouldn't do that. Like, Disso was in college, like, yeah, I don't know about that one. Or actually, was he in call that one? But either way, there was a bunch of people who were like, man, I would never do something like that. Pretty cool stuff. So he at least did it in style, which I like.
To be clear, just because this is an unusual moment where podcast is recording a little bit earlier and we have a whole bunch of people just watching EMEA player win, so there's probably some more EU people here live than usual. I don't know how I developed this reputation as an EMEA hater. I am a fan of a bunch of EMEA players. I root for them in tournaments. I'm happy when you guys succeed. I don't think it makes me a hater to state the fact that NA is the stronger region. I just, it's just a fact. I'm sorry, you can't argue with the numbers over the course of the last like 5-6 sets. But I'm always happy to see you guys do well. I'm definitely not hating on you. I'm a Bintum hater. I have some hate watching in me. I don't hate watch EU as a matter of course, personally.
Oh, I want to say congratulations to PannyBall. I don't know if I said that right, but I think it's really cool for EU to get a win on the board. This will be really great in like five sets when they still haven't won anything. And you guys and one of them is like trying to defend the EU results and be like, yeah, actually we won TOC 8. Like, and everybody be like, what are you talking about? Like, congratulations on a big tournament win.
Oh, I like it. Kien understands, man. As a 34-year-old geriatric TFT / Riot Esports follower, he understands the pain of NA versus EU rivalries.
I can tell you that at least in the League of Legends scene, all of the most hateful comments I have received have always been from EU people for whatever reason. I will hand that to them. They always brag about how toxic the EU server is, and I gotta give it to them. They're right. Can't beat them there.
I like it. Okay, enough about that. Let's PannyAndrew. You want to pile on?
Oh, I have no.
Okay. We'll cool the Jets.
This guy needs his EMEA TikTok viewers. We don't know.
That's right, man. He's desperate. It turns out most of the people on TikTok for TFT are EU. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the tournaments. We're here to talk about Tactician's Cup and just review it and reflect upon it. The first thing is that NA did not win. Another tournament that NA didn't win. Hey, we're 0-2 in tournaments this week. Instead, it was won by Koala Esbelto from Brazil. And Koala was... he actually did some really interesting lines. He also won the tournament playing like 7 Story Weaver, doing some kind of whack stuff. But pretty hype tournament overall. Disso second, David third, Michael in top 4. And then MeanMisterKien, Farmer, and Robovan. Kien, you placed top 8. Did you expect to do this well going to the tournament? What was your confidence like? I think you answered this in our post-game interview, but for people who didn't hear that.
I mean, going into the patch, a lot of my form depends on how much fun I'm having on the particular patch. And so, for example, when Ahri was like super popular, I love Ahri. I think it's my favorite line. I've always liked the AP back line, or not Ahri, excuse me, Syndra and Faded. It just when it's champions, like which a lot of other people say they don't care about champions, but you know, I love Syndra, I love Ahri, like as champions. I play them in League of Legends as well, and so when a comp is something I enjoy playing, I tend to do better on the particular patch just because the game is more fun for me and it's more interesting. Like a lot of lines, like Duelist is a line that was very good in this particular patch. I find it so boring. I hate playing Duelist. I hate playing melee comps in general. So whenever those comps are like really trending upwards, I tend to not have as much confidence on the patch because I'm just not going to play it. Because like if I'm playing solo queue, I'm trying to have some fun, you know, and all I'm playing is solo queue. So basically all my prep was trying to have fun, and if I'm trying to have fun, I'm not playing Duelist very much. And so going into the tournament, I would not say I was super confident, but I was still like thinking, okay, the Ashe line is still good, the Syndra line is good, but pretty good, and like at the very minimum, if I get a Duelist spot, I can at least place decently with it. And generally that did happen throughout the tournament. I would get like seconds or thirds when I needed to on the Duelist comps. Maybe better players could have farmed out a first or a higher placement than me, but I knew the line well enough to be able to play it and get points from my positions. And so in general, not super confident in terms of the meta, but in terms of just like being as a player, like especially after the first Tacticians Cup, I was pretty high on myself in terms of just overall ability. I think I was maybe suffering from confidence at the beginning of the set, but after climbing on ladder, finally doing well in the tournament, I was like, you know what, I've hit top 5 in literally every set that I've played where I've actually sat down and tried to grind out the game. There's no reason to think I can't compete with these guys. And so a lot of it is just sitting down and really calming down my nerves and just taking it a game at a time and not really being intimidated. Not having to have stream on really helped with that. But in general, as a player overall, I felt confident in myself and was generally happy with my performance. Definitely could have performed a little bit better, but I could also just look at it and just really tunnel on the last game where I low rolled and be like, not my fault. Could have been first, but it wasn't.
Okay. A lot to break down there. Do you feel you don't feel any pressure at all? It seems like you're really composed in these kinds of tournaments compared to like other people. Because I think this is your first final lobby that you've ever made in the official circuit.
Yeah, first final lobby. This is only the second set that I'm even ever playing competitively. I got to play set 9 for a little bit. I think I only played in like 2 of those tournaments. I didn't do super well. But like the performances also weren't awful then either. It was especially relative to how much time I was putting into the game at that point. And so this being my second competitive set, definitely a little bit of nerves involved at it. But at this point in my life, I think that has kind of dissipated a little bit. My livelihood doesn't depend on TFT. It doesn't actually, and there's no expectations either for me, I think, which helps a lot. Just whatever happens, happens. I got other things to worry about. Like, you know, like if I'm stressing about anything, it's the fact that I've been unemployed for way too long. It's like this TFT tournament, like just putting it into perspective.
It's just delaying the real life responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, this TFT tournament, you know, there are going to be times when some nerves play into it. But once like I load into the game, I'm not thinking about nerves at all. I'm thinking about what I need to do in this particular game. I'm looking around, I'm scouting. It's just like, I think if you're playing TFT at a high level, scouting. Like generally just try and do your best to focus on the game and not worry too much about all the extra stuff. Like I'm not looking at score sheets or whatever and trying to figure any of that crap out. Just really focus on your game once you load in. I think that's probably true for a lot of players. Once the game starts, just the fact that you have so many things to do can really take your mind off of whatever is causing you to have nerves.
Sure.
You've spoken a lot about the fact that you don't take ladder play very seriously. You're a volume grinder. You're mostly second screening other stuff. You're not locked in. You're not scouting, etc. How much better of a player do you think you are in tournament?
I think significantly better, just in the fact that I start scouting much earlier. Like on ladder, I do scout, but it's not until like stage 5 when, like I'm sure most of chat can probably relate to this. It's like suddenly you take a loss, you look at your health, and then you're at like 16 HP, and you're like, oh shit. Then you lean up a little bit and it's like maybe I gotta like start looking around now. You start scouting, then you're like you look around, you notice a dude has like you're like, wow, when did this guy start playing Kai'Sa? Like what the fuck? Like I had a game earlier today, I was playing Syndra, I thought I was uncontested, stage 4 hits, I look around, 2 people have Syndra 2, and I'm like, when did this happen? Like come on, you're gonna contest me, can you at least type so I know? Like ping me or something. Like I'm not trying to look at your boards right now. But in tournament generally I have a much better read of that earlier on. Scouting turns out to be very important. But in general, if I'm on ladder, like it's just so much more fun for me. Like if I wasn't on this stream right now, I might have this on my second monitor, and I might be playing a game right now. I'm sure somebody in chat is currently playing a game of TFT while I have this podcast open on the side. To me, that's the most fun way to play TFT, is to always be consuming something else as well, which isn't to take away from TFT itself being fun. I've reached a point with TFT where I can autopilot a lot of my games and still play at a pretty high level. And that just ends up being the most fun way for me to enjoy this game. I don't know if it's like I have attention deficiency or whatever, but it's if I don't have something else on the other monitor, it's been hard. So like the last couple of weeks have actually been kind of difficult for me to focus because Soju hasn't been streaming and Becca hasn't been streaming, and those are the two people I generally watch the most. And so I really need them to start streaming again so this can be a more fun activity for me. Otherwise, I'm just kind of mindlessly playing Syndra and not scouting.
I got you, buddy. There's a TikToker I know that puts out a lot of content that you can just ignore in the background.
Yeah. He doesn't really care. You can just have a second monitor just give him the views, like every video.
Wait, that's so true though. My friend plays like 10, 20 games of Clash Royale every TFT game. He's like, I can't scout. I need to drop the lumber loon at the bridge. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're like, I have 80 gold right now. You're 1 HP. Like you have to roll.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do it after this.
That's fun. That's fun.
I also second monitor a lot of my stuff, but usually it's I'm working on a contract on the side or like I'm on a conference call or something, so slightly different dynamics.
Yeah, I one time tried to play TFT multitasking a bunch of stuff. It's just too like Soju is such a risky thing because like he's just so distracting, man. Like I end up watching him more than actually playing my own game, so I don't know how you do it.
Well, I miss so much stuff because of him. Like sometimes when it's really entertaining, I will just miss my roll down.
Yeah,
I will not move a unit, or like last second I'll be oh shit, I have to flip a unit, then I'll like mess up the positioning because of it. And a lot of times I think one of the other dangers that people don't talk about enough is like when you're watching Soju, it can be really infectious. He'll do something really first or eighth on his stream where he'll really go for a line that's like maybe you shouldn't do that, and I'll load into my game and I'll be like, Soju just did that and I have this angle that I can go for now. And so it's like he can really influence what you're trying to do, and not just him, but in general, streamers can influence your decision making when you're watching. Like if they're really going for risky plays, it might make you play more risky. Like I think watching, like I'll have Setsuko on sometimes and I'm like, you know what, maybe I should roll this fortune one more time. Like, you know what? So I think it's a pretty dangerous sometimes to be influenced, but it's just way more fun for me. It's like at the end of the day, if you lose a solo queue game, like you lose 50, 60 LP and then you move on with your life, like who cares?
Okay, I appreciate all that advice. I think I'm going to not watch Soju while I play, but more power to you, man. Impressive. Okay. In the meantime, we also want to recognize, you might be like, well, PannyAndrew's not here in the top 8, but he actually was just barely out. You got 9th. I apologize for this graphic. This graphic, not the most legible, but I swear he's there in 9th. 1 point out from Roba Van Kenobi. So you got tiebreakered out, Panny. Well, talk to me a little bit about your tournament, including the wind down moments when you realized that you barely missed out on top 8 there.
I mean, when I saw this tweet, it says, fresh off their top 8 performances at TAC Cup 2. TikTok sensation, Panny. I was like, I have some choice words for whoever made this tweet.
That was me. Yeah, I made that tweet.
Those words are thank you for
having me on here.
Yeah, I mean, you tied for 8. You just lost a tiebreaker. What's wrong with that?
It's so bad. Wait, I mean, honestly, going into the tournament, I was like, I mean, half of you has to be like, I'm going to win this thing. Otherwise, like, why play? Like, play for fun to get day 2'd on, like, Tactician's Trials. I don't care. The other half was, I was, like, sitting at, like, 250 LP Masters. I was on the wait list for the thing. I, like, ran down, like, 300-400 LP the day before. I was like, yeah, whatever. If I play, I play. If I don't, I don't. So, like, technically, I was, like, 550th seed. Making 9th is outperforming my seed. But I VOD reviewed with Raptor. I VOD reviewed with some SG people.
With the Demacian Raptor?
The Raptor?
Yeah, he's like my primary coach.
Oh, interesting. Do you pay him for coaching?
No, I just like, hey, VOD review, and he's generous and kind
of. Bro, this guy, he's a TikTok creator. How is he going to afford coaching? Come on.
Yeah, actually true. Actually true.
You see how nice that whiteboard is? He could fucking sell that on Craigslist. 5 TFT lessons. Bet.
5 TFT lessons. Yeah, I mean, we did VOD review after. I made like probably 120 mistakes across 6 games, and if I made like 117 mistakes instead, I would have won the tournament. So Yeah.
So you feel like you had the luck and the spots to actually win, and that was on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, if I made like one less mistake, because I lost by 1 HP. If I got like 6th instead of 7th my last game.
Oh, that would have been the placement for the final lobby at the very least.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like that's fine. Like, let me just like dwell on that one mistake and then like beat myself up about it. And I bot reviewed with Raptor. I was like, wow, I am actually just an idiot. Like, I don't know how to play this game. I made 3 of the most egregious mistakes in my entire life will haunt me forever.
Wait, what was it? What was the worst one? What's the one that's keeping you up at night?
I want to hear all 3 actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Let's
I
do it.
have it on I made it my screensaver. So let me just.
What, not your whiteboard? Is it? I thought your
You made
whiteboard
your
was for
screensaver?
importance.
Yeah, every time I load on my computer, I just get hit. Like, I'm never making. Like, I'll never. Not again. Like, not again, man. It actually just.
I love this guy. What?
It's terrible. All right, number 1 mistake. I think I played 5 Warden, 5 Sniper for like 2 turns on stage 4. Lost both those rounds. Turns out like the 5 trade doesn't like activate 6. Another one is
Interesting tech though.
I had an Irelia 2 on my bench, and I had a Runans on my Zyra 2. But I had like an Irelia 2 on my board, and like another Irelia 2 that I could have had Runans DB on.
Oh.
But I was playing Runans DB Zyra 2.
We saw
So
this.
That might have been a mistake. In my opinion. I'm not a good player, but that might be a mistake. And then the third mistake, I mean, there was 2 sniper games. I didn't build IE. That dish soap guy fucking griefed me like just one day before. Oh, you put IE on Ash. GG's, tournament's won. And then I also like just picked 2 augments that I think a plat player could probably like new recruit. I picked Warden Crown over new recruit. I mean, like it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but like if you like, yeah, whatever. Another one, yeah, I just augment mistakes, everything mistakes, like just infinite mistakes. Like it's just so bad.
Okay.
Thanks for reminding me, Frodan. Good
It
shit.
seems like this
You're
is
welcome.
a huge part of your like TFT improvement process. Because for those of you who weren't here for the pre-show, the whiteboard behind him is just like 12 random, basically mistakes that you've made that you just have listed out on your whiteboard, and then your screensaver is that too. So are you like a negative reinforcement type of learner?
What do you?
I mean, you can only like you can't be positively reinforced by your mistakes, right? Like the only way is to be that like I can't be like, oh shit, I fucked up. Bet it's time. Like fuck it. Let me just do that shit again.
I'm not sure that I would want my screensaver to be like the 3 big mistakes that I made either. I'm not sure that's like how it would work for me, but
There's a big spectrum, and you kind of like you're parking really far down
Yes.
one end of the spectrum.
You could do like your screensaver as the standings for tied 8th place. I think that's like that's a good
I
summary.
have that too. That's in the middle. That's straight in the middle.
Oh,
It's me and
you got
Ruby
it all. You got it all.
Yep.
I got it.
No worries. No worries.
I will
If
say,
you want to be more positive, is just don't VOD review, and then like I don't even know if I made mistakes. I mean, probably didn't. If I didn't VOD review, I didn't see
That's
them.
true.
I didn't see a
happen.
single fucking mistake that you made.
Crazy.
That was my mentality before I VOD reviewed. I played this shit perfectly. We'll roll. Unlucky.
man, that's it's really illuminating. I think a lot of people can relate to your experience because you're also like this is also a relatively new journey for you, right? Like, how long have you been trying to actually take TFT seriously and actually trying to compete? Because I don't feel like I recall seeing you like sets back.
Yeah, this is my first like tournament, or that was my first tournament, and I started I don't want to call it competing. I hit Challenger for the first time at 9.5, spamming like I don't know, like some legend. I just played that shit every game, like Zaya Kaisa. So I hit Challenger then, and then we did Return to Office, and I was like, I'm not gonna return to Office. That's kind of cringe, and so I quit my job.
Wait, where were you working?
Amazon.
Okay.
Oh,
And I was like, yeah, that's. And then so set 10, that's when LAN happened, and I kind of sucked in set 10, and then this is set.
so that
I'm trying to
motivated
get
you.
better.
Did you get a new job, or are you just not working?
No, I'm just not working. I'm just gonna do this, win worlds, and then never touch the game again.
Yeah. Who needs a job?
Oh, you know, we heard this one before, actually. The guy who left his job to become a world champion and then never touched TFT after again. You know what he's doing? he's one-tricking duelist on ladder right now, actually. It's Replay. Replay was the exact same person who said that.
I'll win 2 worlds then. Like,
Okay, sounds good. Sounds to
Wait,
win
you can't
2
win
worlds
2
and then quit.
worlds. How do you win 2 worlds if you quit after the first worlds?
No, he says he's going to win 2 and then quit.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
can't let replay. That guy makes me mad.
Oh, yeah. Well, do we have a
Say more, say
replay
more.
hate watcher on the show?
No, it's because it said 9.5 at the end. He was like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm doing coaching for free." I was like, you know what? I'm up. I want to learn how to improve in the game.
Wait, you were on his coaching stream?
Yeah. It
Oh,
actually makes me mad now that I think about it. I mean, he helped me a lot, to be fair. Good coach. You should pay him lots of money if you get the opportunity. But he was just sitting there. He was like, "Is this fucking stupid? Like, how could you like?" I was like, "Maybe I am stupid. Like, yeah, okay, I am stupid. Like, come on, like, yeah, like, hello." And then so that was.
wait a second. Okay, I need to add a little context. So, replay at the end of set 9 was just like trying to figure out what content to do because he narrowly missed the world championship. He was actually, if people don't know, replay won set 8 world championship, came like within a few points short of making the set 9 world, which is really impressive at regionals, final lobby. And then like he kind of went through this like whole like, I'm depressed, like what do I do? But I want to play TFT. Logged on the stream for like a week, didn't know what to do, so he decided to coach random viewers. And I didn't realize that PannyAndrew was one of these people that he coached because the entire time that replay would coach these viewers, he would just be flaming them nonstop. He would like basically just let awkward silence sit for like an entire half stage and just be like, "What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Huh? What are we doing here? Oh, why? I see a guard breaker here on the bench. What are we doing here?" And then it's just randomly like trolling his viewers and. I didn't realize you were on that. That's so
Did
funny.
you make a TikTok out of it?
Oh, I didn't start TikTok until set 10, I believe.
Okay.
So unfortunately not.
Okay.
I'm trying to, if you want coaching from me, don't pay me because I need to make TikTok coaching videos where I flame you. I'm pretty sure those videos will go crazy on TikTok. So
I did a coaching series and man, on my YouTube, and man, people are really mean in the comments. I had people who are like Emerald and Diamond submitting. Everyone just piles on. I'm actually scared to do more of it because I just feel like it's not really my brand to breed toxicity. So I'm worried of doing more. But yeah, that is fun content to do for sure. Okay, speaking of toxicity, there's actually been a wave of it because of this upcoming stats. We'll go more in depth of everybody's tournaments in those standings later throughout this episode. But people are looking a lot at these numbers. They're looking at like how the regions are doing within the Americas in particular. And man, people are using it as ammo to just be like, look at how bad every region but North America is doing. Specifically, people are just like now spamming things about like Latin America North, averaging over 5 over multiple days, over multiple events, 0 players like advancing. And in general, being kind of toxic about it for the most part. Is it justified, Bryce? I mean, there's a lot of this. Like even people are making like posts as like the 200th best player in NA. They're like, I didn't sign up for these cups to play against LATAM and BR shitters. I'm here to play against Setsuko and Dish Soap. And it's like I sense so much arrogance and ego. I feel like there's some bad karma brewing for North America.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. Most of what I see feels like at least semi-level-headed takes about the actual problem. But there's definitely some idiots out there that completely misunderstand. Like there are people who just think that people from Brazil and Latin America are worse at TFT inherently and like don't belong, and that's just bullshit. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process of like how many people play, for how long have they been playing, at what level, seriously, right? And this is true for most video games. In fact, for all video games, for all esports, it's like this. Like TFT has been really big in NA since the inception of the game. We do a ton of focused improvement. NA actually, a huge part of why NA is the best region has to do with the way that we prep. The reason why I think we have a slight edge on China is because we prep a lot better collectively than China does or than any other region does, and that's responsible for why NA keeps getting better because we have these people at the top of our ladder that just teach us all how to be better. Like every set, you can get better if you want to by just watching literally the best players in the world telling you in real time. You know, we're talking like this one snippet earlier of Dish Soap just telling people how to play Ashe. He didn't have to fucking do that, right? He didn't have to just go publicly and say a thing that now everyone who knows anything about TFT is going to be paying attention to it. So that's a big part of the reason why NA as a whole is getting better. it's not like we can reasonably expect these regions to compete at the level of NA coming into this merge. That's just impossible. Part of the merge is about helping them get better. And we already know players in these regions are capable of doing it, right? Like there are at least 10, I would argue closer to 15 players from these regions that are playing at a kind of tier 2 NA level. Like I would not put them in the conversation with the Dish Soap, the Setsuko, the Wajan, the Malala, the Replay, but I would say that they're in the conversation for the next round down, which is really good TFT. There's tons of really, really good players at that level. And yeah, overall, Latin America North performs really badly, but if you think Relic is bad at TFT, you've never watched them play TFT, right? And this is similarly true across the board, to say nothing of the fact that a lot of these region stats are severely deflated by the fact that they're having weaker players from their region signing up, right? There's an advertising problem in getting the overall like registration to move up. So look, there are huge problems with this format. We've talked about them. I'm happy to get into them if that's something you want to cover right now, Dan, or I don't need to. I feel like this data is relatively fake when evaluating the regions, but we should expect some amount of this gap. And I think if we improve the format to make it a little bit more balanced so that the overall, I'd be fine with these regions having fewer placements fewer slots in these tournaments for now, just to guarantee that there's like a slightly higher bar of the level of competition in the event. I think that the skill disparity is actually not serving anybody. It's not serving anyone who's signing up for these events, including some of the really low skill players from these regions that are signing up. And when I say low skill, I don't mean in a vacuum. I mean relative to the other players that they're competing against, where they are clearly weaker, and the data is backing that up.
Okay. A lot to break down. I don't think we're going to go too much into format depth now, particularly because I think, one, the conversation has been exhausted, and two, I think Riot has gotten the point and they know. So, the point of complaining is to enact change. Riot has stated privately to me they are going to change things back in the next set. So I think I'm just going to wait. And then once they release details, probably we'll have other things that we can complain about. Let's bring it up back then, or next time then. Kien, you compete against Brazil and LATAM. Do you notice anything different in your experiences going up against these guys?
I mean, not really. Like, you put nameplates on them, you hide their nameplates. I would not be able to tell you this person's NA or this person's LATAM or whatever. Just like that doesn't make a difference to me. Once you do look at it, like I think the BR guys especially are very good players. I always have like struggled, or not struggled necessarily, but like when I'm in games with them, I find that they perform well consistently. With the LATAM stuff, it's like a lot of people like, again, this number is just so inflated in a way that's like of course they're going to perform at a 5.14 level. They just don't have the same amount of players as us. They don't have the same type of caliber at the top. And it's like a lot of people are saying, I'm the same LP in NA, and I would do better than this LAN player, but you're comparing the equivalency wrong. It's like you're more the equivalent of like a much lower level player in LATAM North, and you would also go 5.14 in these lobbies. So it's like, I don't know why you're flaming them. They have less resources. They're showing up to do what they can, and a lot of the idea of this competition is to create opportunity for players to kind of come up and learn through it. It's like, at the end of the day, TFT is a game with a lot of variance, is a game with a lot of chance and luck involved in it, and I think having opportunities for lower level players to come up is a good thing for the game. And it's unfortunate that it's being broken down in a regional manner like this, but I do think, as Bryce has mentioned and as Dan has mentioned, and I think a lot of people have said in the past, this will get better over time. And I think the LATAM North players, they know better than anybody else. And, this is embarrassing, and, hopefully it inspires some of them to train and to get better at the game. And I think it will happen over time. So, I'm rooting for them, and I think, of course, they'll get better. And again, a lot of these NA players that are like the ones that are really actually flaming them are often just like, come on, man, you're not good either. Like, just
okay.
Just because Dish Soap is good, and just because like Setsuko is good, and because NA does good at the top and at Worlds level, does not mean that you are also good. Okay, so just relax. The region can be good, but the region's good because its top players are good. It doesn't make you good necessarily. It's one of these things that I think a lot of players have like this parasocial relationship with streamers and with the community that they involve themselves in, and it's really frustrating. You see this a lot in Soju's stream, where I think Soju, for example, is somebody who's very good at making himself the butt of the joke, and this has invited his chat to then be really toxic at him as well. And something it's like if you're sitting at a bar and like, so let's say, Dan, you look at Bryce and you say, "Ah, shut up, go fuck yourself, Bryce." Like, that's between friends. That's it could be funny, it could be a ribbing thing. And what has happened is chat often is like this other guy at the same bar table as you who doesn't know you as well.
Right.
And then suddenly you say shut up, Bryce, and then this other guy, this chat says, "Yeah, go kill yourself." And all of us are like, "Whoa." Like, we don't know you like that. You really escalated this conversation suddenly, and I really wish in Twitch chat there was just a giant sign that was just like, "We don't know you like that. Just relax. You are not necessarily in on the joke. You're not in on the banter." And I wish, as a whole, with just Twitch and even with the TFT community, that people could just step back for a second and realize that it's not a healthy social relationship to be in. You are not part of the friendship circle in that kind of manner, and just step back for a second. We don't need I hope TFT doesn't go down the path of toxicity, and it's frustrating for me whenever it starts going down the path of toxicity, because it's a game that just does not have to be toxic at all. It's a fun game. There's a lot of good people. A lot of our best personalities are not toxic. They're very wholesome people, and if we could just just step back for a second.
Yeah, well said. Light in chat says, "You're telling me Frodan is not my friend?" No, for you and me, we're friends, but everyone else, he's talking about everyone else, not me and you.
Everyone else.
Yeah, it's just literally, you're an exception. Okay, man, a lot to kind of parse through, but, I think that was a really good summary of kind of the attitude, and I'm glad that we kind of addressed that. In the meantime, actually, if anything, talk about entry. Precipice in chat saying that he thinks that it should be Challenger and above, which I also think is arguable. You can't really do that. I mean, PannyAndrew wouldn't even be able to sign up, man. He ran it down to Masters. And look at him, man. He's the inspirational story.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, Kien eloquently said it well. Like these 200, I'm like 219, but like some of these players I've been like making fun of the other regions, and they're actually all trash. I watched them. I'm like, these people actually suck. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure like bot only top 50 of NA is good. I'm not there yet. I'm like, but I'm 9th in NA, not just NA, 9th in A.
We'll go over that in a little bit. We asked these guys to submit who do you think is top 15 in NA, which we'll cover in a little bit. And I think that there's some a little bit of spice to it. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Love it.
In the meantime, what about the? Oh, go ahead. Do you want to say?
I just want to say real quick to the Challenger comment is like I do think, again, you have to remember these tournaments are kind of flash in the pan weekends. Like, they're very quick snapshots. Like, if you care about Challenger, that's the whole point of ladder. You can qualify for big tournaments via ladder. You can skip the first 3 days. There's ladder point qualifications that can skip you out through, I think, regionals. So it's like, if it's not that ladder doesn't matter, but I think part of these tournaments is like it's an 18 game sample size for one weekend if you happen to play in all 18 games. And I think having a chance for like a GM player who might have other responsibilities in life, say they are working full time, they can't grind, because a lot of times grinding ladder is just playing a lot of like a high volume of games. I bet a lot of people, they played the same amount of games as I could, or as I did. They might not hit Challenger, but they can certainly climb way higher than they are right now. And I do feel like it's a test of being able to grind for volume, which not everybody can do. And I think there are plenty of players who can be very good in a quick weekend that can't grind for a whole set. They can't grind for a whole month to be able to qualify straight to these tournaments. And I do think it's you should not prohibit players from tournaments just because they can't hit Challenger. Like, obviously, in general, the best players are Challenger, but I think just for even a pipe dream for some of these Masters and Grandmaster players, I think that dream is worth it from a competitive standpoint, especially if I'm thinking from Riot's standpoint. The whole idea behind these things is like anybody can make it, and I do think there are cases where people can drop. You can disappear for a month and come back and just focus for a week, and that might prep you enough for the tournament, but it might not give you enough time to climb to Challenger.
Yep. My W Glaze moment here. Bryce, I think, is a great example of someone who is I don't even know if Bryce is playing this set. Did you even hit Masters, Bryce?
I did. I every time I played, I wasn't having fun, so eventually I stopped. I mean, my stats were good. I was climbing. Sure. I decayed. I'm pretty sure I'm 0 LP. I haven't played in weeks.
But Bryce, I think, is more than capable of excelling in not just hanging, but I think he can excel in the trials field. He's played in tournaments, advanced to multiple final weekends. Bryce is more than capable of hanging, but he's a Masters player right now, if you were to define him.
Sure.
But obviously his peak ceiling is much higher. And Bryce is a trusted VOD review partner for other top players. And I'm talking about top players. I'm talking about the very best. So, like, Bryce is very much a trusted opinion, but is he allowed to compete based off the definition of LP as a gate mechanic No. So then you're like, well, Bryce is an exception. We would let him in. But how many exceptions are there that we don't even know about?
There are more than people. There are more than people realize, right? Like it's the people that what I have come to realize through, because I have to do this. This is actually the first set I haven't hit Challenger ever in TFT. It wasn't set 1 in TFT because I hit for the first time in set 2, and I was like really self-conscious about it because I felt like I've always really liked having this kind of idiot-proof response to chatters when they're like, who is this caster? Like, why is he even talking? It's like, okay, well, now I've hit Challenger like 100 sets in a row, so like I think I'm allowed to just say I don't enjoy this set and try to like, I'll learn the set for the purposes of casting, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of time playing it. With that said, I think that when I talk to the players, all these different pros throughout the set, I think they really take for granted the level to which they are plugged into TFT, the number of games they play, the amount of hours they're spending watching TFT, looking at stats. And yeah, it is very easy if your fundamentals are at a certain level and you're plugged in at that level to climb. I do it. That's how my climb works. Literally, I plug myself in. I basically download knowledge from pros, and then my fundamentals are good enough that I can hit Challenger automatically. If I play, I don't even need that many games to get there, right? Like I will do it every time. I just don't want to right now, so that's why I'm not. And this is super relevant because they're so disconnected from the world of the Masters and GM players that they cannot fathom the possibility that someone could not be Challenger and actually be decent at the game. I'm not saying it is impossible to be as good as a Dish Soap or a Setsuko if you are GM, because those guys are so good that in the number of games you're playing, you're going to see it. But it's just, look, everyone leads different lives, has different demands on their time, and we don't want to gatekeep all of these people out. I know we're not getting the format. It's a huge part of the problem with the format is that it requires you to play on 2 work days right now, which is bullshit. Right? So we want to create a community where these people can come in. There are better ways of doing it. I can agree with that, but I'm really, really opposed to the notion of setting like a hard bar, like saying, oh, if you're not Challenger in Brazil or LATAM, then like you shouldn't be allowed in these tournaments. That seems like bullshit.
Yeah, there needs to be a proletariat uprising from the master and the GM class.
The middle class.
These Challenger, let them have cake. Like come
yeah.
There's a big disconnect. You got to speak to the common master, grandmaster players and really get their perspective. Go have a beer with them,
I appreciate that. You know what? I'll go hang out with Soju and all them whenever I can. Okay, in the meantime, just to transition that, just because I feel like we had a really thorough discussion about that in particular, trying to make TFT competitions more inclusive, which is the goal. I did go out and try and ask people about how their tournaments went, because there's more than just Kien and PannyAndrew's performance, but also some of the other players. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the testimonials. Starting off with Greya, who's in the top 16. My criteria was people who kind of made that top 16, top 20 range, and just get a perspective of how their tournaments went. Greya sent me a pretty long explanation. I asked him how your tournament went. Greya says, not going to lie, I barely even remember my games, but there's one moment that sticks out to me. It's day 3 going to top 16 cut, and I'm in the bubble. Goobums is in my lobby, and he's dead last with no hope. I'm playing Ghostly Zoe Zyra reroll, and Goobum just makes a random Shen 3 while playing Faded Dryad, completely griefing my game because I kind of need a Shen 3 for frontline. I ended up going second and still making the top 16 barely, but my spot was so good, I probably went first that game otherwise, and I almost went bot 4 because he took all my Shens. Overall, I don't know, I probably played around average 5 out of 10. Oh yeah, and added context to above is Goobums was talking to our study group before the game, saying stuff like it's high roll to get him in lobby because he's 888, and yeah, I get him in lobby and he just takes all my shits.
Fucking Goobums.
Goobums probably wasn't even scouting that game, wasn't he? Like he was already out. He was
yeah, probably.
I mean, he was probably watching your stream during that game.
For people who don't know, in context, Goobums had an infamous day 3 where he played 5 games and scored 9 points. 8, 6, 8, 7, 5, I believe. Almost an 8, 8, 7, 5 meme. Got a snippet from Michael. Michael went top 4 from last time. His English is not perfect, but he tried to submit anyways. Michael said, I think this was my best tournament in a long time. I prepared too much, and I had a game of 7 fortune. I think that's his highlight. And it prevented me from winning. A game of 7 fortune prevented me from winning Sag. He gives himself a 9.5 out of 10 for his performance.
Really good.
My best moment was when I positioned perfectly to Thy Beaster, a fight I was never able to win, which made me take first place. Una cosa que quería resaltar en el nivel de Dish Soap es literalmente como un bestia, which he translated to, one thing I wanted to highlight is the level of Dish Soap. It is literally like a beast. So Michael contending Bryce for W Glaze.
You can't have my crown. I can always outglaze.
Really impressive respect.
Is that Spanish? Have you ever glazed them in Spanish? Because I feel like that's a new level.
That is new level, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, I got to work on my other language glaze capabilities.
Yep. I asked Milk about his performance. I said, yo, I'm gathering a couple sentences of runs for the podcast. Just let me know some of your possible things you want to chat about. Best moments, or you're proud of yourself. Milk said nopers and then sent me a screenshot. Also, shouldn't this board be better if I played Yasuo and Darius? I went 8th. Immediately pivoted the topic to a different TFT game. So yeah, Milk said nope. Replay. I asked him. He placed pretty well this tournament. Replay actually had a great run. He said, I'm pretty sure I had an insane edge on everyone in this tournament. If I didn't DC multiple times every game, losing a ton of fights and placement, the results would have been quite different. I didn't realize this was happening, so my heart goes out to him. I'm really sad about Replay DCing, so hopefully they fix that. That's one thing that people aren't talking about, but Tournament Realm has been getting worse.
Yeah.
Penny, did you run into any Tournament Realm issues throughout the weekend?
No, I was a pausing demon. After I saw my teacher Pokegom get griefed, I saw disconnect, pause. I'm waiting 2 minutes after he comes back. There was one lobby where we didn't start till like 10 minutes after. Because somebody just disconnected. The guy was like, yeah, at 8:10, can you unpause? I was like, oh yeah, bet. I did not unpause that shit until the guy reconnected. I was like, I do not give a fuck.
Very honorable. Very honorable.
Pokegom, what happened to him? I mean...
Yeah,
that's fucked.
Actually, I don't have that. I wish I just grabbed that screenshot. There's a little bit of drama that happened because Pocky disconnected and nobody paused, causing him to lose multiple rounds off of not converting because it was during a PvE round. He disconnected, so he didn't pick up his items and everything like that. And that's kind of against the spirit of competition, right? Like, just it's not his fault. Pause the game for just a minute or two while he reconnects, and then people got some free wins off of him. And I think Pokemon feels kind of like betrayed by like the lobby. He's like, man, no one had my back. And I think we some people apologize because they were talking about they were not focusing on his board, but kind of a shitty situation overall.
It is. I think he walked it back. I think in the heat of the moment, it was like surely someone new and conscious made the decision. I don't think anyone could prove that. It is a little hard to believe that no one noticed for as long as it went on, but at the same time, you shouldn't assume maliciousness on the part of other competitors.
I saw one of the competitors, whoever he fought on 5-1.
It was Relic, I think.
Yeah, he posted his VOD, and it's like, from my, like, I was like, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't see it. From my perspective as well, like, I was not a pause demon. I almost never noticed when somebody would DC. And I think that's not going to be very uncommon. If you're locked in and you're looking at your board, and especially depending on the timing of these DCs, like if it happens on like 4-2 on an augment interval, happens like neutrals, you're collecting orbs and items, like it's going to be very hard to see this. And I think, especially from a competitive standpoint, I would never put that on the competitors. Like, it should not be your job to pause the game. That's another level of thinking. Like I'm glad that you did it, Panny, but it's like I would never advocate somebody to like make that part of their responsibility. Like, that should not be on you. That's another brain cell you're devoting to something that is gonna affect and like kind of like, because like you are really like 120% when you're trying to play these games at the highest level, and if you have to devote even a little bit of that to just suddenly like, I got to make sure I pause if I see somebody DCing, it might affect a thing here or there, and I feel like that's on tournament organizer at that point. Like, I wish there was a world in which we had spectators in every lobby that had the ability to pause if they could see it. I don't know if they can or not, but it should be on somebody that's not in the game to pause when they see a DC. It is unfortunate because it was happening like a ton over the weekend, and I think that really, and it really does affect it can, like, even one placement, as you know, replay has mentioned in this, like 1 or 2 placements could be the difference between advancing or not advancing, and I think that really sucks. And sometimes like one fight could be the difference between a 7th or a 1st, or a 7th or a 2nd, and I think those are huge swings, and it is extremely frustrating from a competitive standpoint. Like, that's the kind of thing I'd like, if we're gonna complain and bitch about anything, it's not the format, it's like about these DCs should be like, that is unreasonable, and it's been happening both tournaments this set. And of course, you know, it's like, that's not on the tournament organizer. They don't have any real control over the Riot backend, and I think we all know how bad the Riot spaghetti code is on live servers, let alone on tournament realm.
It's really bad on tournament realm. Spectators aren't allowed to join until all the players join the lobby, because that creates a unstartable lobby bug, and everyone has to restart. Like, that's how janky it is. Yeah, the join order of the lobby matters. Tournament Realm is barely holding together through chopsticks and duct tape. It's pretty bad situation. So yeah, Riot needs to fix that. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that's like a pipeline issue. Just like there's just so much they needed to get done, and Tournament Realm is just it's not great. Sorry, Replay. Sorry to Pocky. Sorry to everybody who struggled with it. Thankfully, it didn't become an even bigger issue. And honestly, that might even be the most high roll part about the tournament. Did talk to a couple other people as well. Talked to Robovan Kenobi. Another top 8 performance. I say basically once every set or once every other set, Roby has like these amazing tournament runs where he gets to the final lobby. I talked to him again. Roby said, day 1 of trials, I started with 6, 8, 7 scores, but managed to survive each day. On the final day, I started off with a 1-1, but ended up not piloting some below average games perfectly, so I only ended up going 8th overall the tournament. To be honest, I should be glad even for the 8th, but I was disappointed in myself. I didn't go top 4 when I probably could have. This is not my favorite set, but I'll still try to get some results in future tournaments. Very professional, kind of extreme swings on his end. And then Thigh Beaster, the guy that got 5th, almost no one really talking about him for the most part, but I got words from him. He said, overall, I feel like I high rolled a lot of spots, but I'm pretty happy with how I played. I'm a little disappointed, though, because I recognize a lot of mistakes I made in moments on the last day and could have easily top 4'd the tournament. I think that's a common sentiment overall. Then finally, I did manage to reach out to Koala Esbelto, the Brazilian winner of the tournament. I asked him for some words. I said, hey, could you give us a few words about how your tournament went? And he responded, hey. And I haven't heard anything back since. That's literally all he typed back in my chat. So hopefully we'll be able to get words in the future. But I got Donowald. He's too big time, man. Brazil wins the tournament. And yeah, it is what it is. Okay, in the meantime, let's go ahead and verify how our power rankings actually did. We like to hold some accountability. So we power ranked everybody. How much does this panel actually know? And I decided, based off our previous performance, where we did terribly, Bryce, in Tactician's Cup number 1, I wanted to give us a little bit more freedom. So I said 15 out of the top 25, because if you go to top 30-something, that's basically the final day of competition. So 15 out of the top 25. And we got 10. We got 10 out of 15. If we went to top 32, we would have included Goobums there. So overall, okay. But there was one ballot that only matched this. Every other ballot actually scored 9 out of 15 or worse, except for one ballot. Do you want to know who it was, Bryce?
I don't remember. I think I knew this, but I can't remember off the top of my head for some reason.
It was you. Bryce was the only person that actually got 10 out of 15 or better on his band panel, though, which congratulations, Bryce. You basically voted along with the actual power rankings itself, if you kind of think about it. Basically, you chose, for the most part, the ranking. Except you did have a couple good shout-outs. You shout out Ramblin' and Milk, and those are 2 people that kind of got you spots back onto the top 15.
We'll take it. Easy money betting on the old guard back in form. Love to see Ramblin' and Milk doing well.
Yeah. A little bit surprising for Setsuko, especially his tournament. Setsuko just had an awful day 2. Very uncharacteristic of him, but he did end his day strong, at least with the top 2 Kazakhs reroll. That was pretty cool. Not exactly sure what happened with Weijin. In general, his performance relative to his ladder has been a little bit uneven. But Dish Soap Man, a top 3 placement, felt kind of low, fired him up, comes back second in the tournament. And another thing to consider, by the way, Dish Soap is also number 1 in qualifier points, and the number 1 person in QP goes to the World Championship for the Americas. And right now, Dish Soap is the most likely person to advance. I think if he makes it to day 3, he is 100% guaranteed. But right now, he's like 90-something% likely to guarantee go to back-to-back World Championships, which would be really cool. We might have 2 people returning to Worlds instead of 11. It's Malala and Dish Soap.
Dude, if we know really confidently we're sitting 2 people and it's Malala and Dish Soap, that is a fucking awesome start to our Worlds roster.
Yeah.
And if we high roll how regionals plays out a little bit, we could send some really strong players.
Yep. The people that can contend him for that QP spot are Pakigam and Grea. Another good set of performances by this dynamic duo. Very good. Kind of who's in better form? Spencer. Great performance from him. Top 16 when I think Spencer in general is just still flying under the radar relative to this performance. And I want to give a shout out to Pressevent. I've been on his case about how he's not performing in tournaments. He showed up to play. He did pretty well this past weekend. He didn't, make final lobby and win the whole thing, but just needs to start putting on those kind of performances because I think some people started cooling off on the Prestivan hype train, and they kind of forget a little bit about why that is. Prestivan's a great player, he's improved a lot, and I'm glad he's able to finally put some of that conversation to rest. Okay, so now that's the top 15 that we ranked, but a segment we like to do is a top 15 submitted by Kien and PannyAndrew. I gave him an open-ended prompt. Please submit to me 15 names and come up with your own criteria list of what you think the top 15 in North America is right now. Who wants to go first, Kien or PannyAndrew?
You got it, Kien.
All right. Kien's top 15, we'll start off with numbers 1 to 7 here. He starts out with number 1, dish soap, 2, Setsuko, 3, socks, 4, milk, Robin songs at 5, Asa and Weijin is top 7. So already a little bit of a spicy take.
Wait,
there.
what was your criteria? Is this like expectation of regionals performance, best right now? What are we looking at?
Mine leans much heavily more into like historical performance over like the history of TFT. And so my criteria generally when I was thinking about this was if I gave players like a month or whatever, where they had to really sit down and focus on preparing for a tournament or for whatever event is coming up, who would be the 15 people I am most confident in who are actively playing right now still. And I think this was the list I ended up coming up with was like...
Is Malala an intentional omission or is that an unintentional omission?
So the thing with Malala is he spiked it really in set 9, or 9.5 and set 10, like with the Vegas Open, and I didn't play those sets. And so before he really made his way up, he was kind of a meme name for a while. And so for me, my perception of him is still tied more to that era where I disappear for a couple of sets and this guy's suddenly a beast. I don't want to discredit him as a player. I just don't have as much experience personally with him, and when I'm not playing TFT, I'm not following the competitive scene super well either, so I don't know what made him really strong in those sets and what made him stand out compared to other players. The same things, like I think Gray is missing on this list as well, just players like that. Like Prestivan's another example of a player we just talked about where Prestivan's like whenever you see those videos, or like if you're playing with your cat, like you hide behind a corner and the cat creeps up every now and then. For me, it's like that's my relationship with Prestivan as a player. Is like I feel like I hide behind the corner, which is whenever I'm taking a set off, and then I peek back out when I come back out to a set, and Prestivan's really close to me again. And it's like he was somebody that has like improved so much as a player, and every single time I see him on ladder, it's like compared to when he first started TFT and when I first saw his name, because he used to just be like he was the guy he was Soju's friend for a while, but now he's like coming into his own rights as a player. But just like personally, I don't have that much experience with him. Just whatever reasons, whenever he is spiked, I just happen to be taking that set off. The way I play TFT is I take almost every other set off at this point, and so it just kind of depends. So a lot of my performances or my ranking is just based on what I know and when people happen to spike when I happen to be playing as well. And these are the players that generally have always impressed me. And this is just kind of how my list has panned out. Like Dish Soap is like the way I think about the top of the ladder is like Dish Soap is somebody, if I need 10 games for average placement, I'm always picking Dish Soap. If I need one game where somebody has to go first, I'm taking Setsuko. If I need 10 games where you have to play the exact same comp every single time, I'm taking Milk. And I think that's kind of how I think about those players at the top. Sox is somebody that sometimes I don't understand how his brain works, and I think it's really fascinating how he plays TFT, and I have a lot of respect for it. But it's difficult for me to sometimes track what he's doing. But I've always had a ton of respect for the results he puts out, the way he thinks about TFT. A lot of times when he does put out educational content, I'm like, wow, that's really smart. I haven't thought about that. And so that's kind of my top.
Wait, I'm really curious to your thoughts on Robin, too, because based on this criteria, Robin feels a little high to me relative to what I would have expected you to rank him.
Well, I think Robin's been extremely consistent for so long. I think he's an extremely impressive player. I think I think Robin's biggest weakness, and even when I'm watching him play, I think Kurum is another player who's very similar to Robin, with the same type of weaknesses. I think both of them can be a little insecure in their spots, and they have a tendency to overroll on 8, and which ends up meaning that they're going to top 4 more often and not get first as much. And so I think if they were to shore that up, they could both improve as players. that's just my perspective whenever I'm watching them stream, is they do seem to like overroll a little bit. But in general, I do still think that they're able to play really good level 8 boards. They're really flexible. At level 8, they really understand how to tempo through the mid game really well. And if their weakness is just capping a little bit, I think ultimately, if you're looking for tournament performances, I'd much more prefer what Robin is doing, and what Crumb tries to do is just, play for these consistent placements. Don't chase after these first. Like you were talking about Setsuko's performance earlier, I think something he struggled with, because I think I was in his lobby on day 2. He ended up playing Fortune back to back. Or maybe it wasn't back, but he definitely played Fortune in one of those games, ended up going 8th as a result of it. And this is a strategy I think you should apply as well going into especially the Tactician trial, is I would never play Fortune. If you think you are stronger than other players, like the one way you can potentially lose is play a variant games like Fortune. If Setsuko is just playing a straight line, like there's no fucking way he's going 8th in a lobby with players like even of my caliber, right? I think that especially for weekend 1, this would be my game plan. If people are going into Tactician trial, you should not play these low variance comps. You should play for top 4 every single game, because a lot of the ways you can win these lobbies is you can first secure a top 4 placement, and because people are not going to be as good at capping their boards, they're going to be more insecure about rolling at level 8. You can end up spiking and beating them with a very standard safe tempo, and I feel like that is something in general that Robin does very well. He has very consistent tournament performances because of this. I think Kurum has always been a player like this as well. And that's why Robin's just very high for me. I think Robin's one of the best players when it comes to just farming out consistent performances. And I think personally, I value that a lot, especially in a competitive context.
Interesting. That is a lot to break down. I'm just going to latch on, or I'm just going to follow up with the last point that you said about Robin. Is I think part of why Robin is less consistent in the past couple of tournaments and the last couple of sets is because I think he's actively trying to break out of some of the mindset he's had in the past. I don't know how much you guys are watching. I mean, Bryce, last podcast episode was talking about how he watches Robin, but Robin is actively trying to look for moments he can play for winouts now. He's actually trying to understand how to play for loose streak as opposed to roll and not overroll. It is a meme that he's addicted to rolling in his chat, but for the most part, he very much is trying to change and evolve. And it destabilizes his play potentially in the short term. I hope it pays dividends in the long run because I love when Robin does well. Okay, anyone else you want to talk about? Otherwise, we can go to Panny's top 15 list.
I mean, the rest of the list, I think, pretty expected names. I don't know if people think Soji's too high or whatever. I think Soji's a very good player, and I think the only people who don't think he's good just watch his stream too much. Watch him when he plays tournament.
Wow.
He's a very different player. Like part of his stream at this point, he knows that it's more entertaining for hate watchers, so he's going to take a lot more riskier plays. I would never judge his general performance based on him stream, but as a player, he's always been a very good player across multiple sets. And I would just look at the whole body of work. I would like to just randomly give a shout out to Darth Nub, who I think is a very interesting player. Because he plays a lot of lines that are I'm just wondering, because he's been playing the Syndra Ghostly line for the entire set. And part of me is man, what if you just played standard line? Would you not just climb? Yeah, well, would you not just climb more? But no, he's just playing this Ghostly Syndra. He'll just play random shit. And I've lost to this Ghostly Syndra shit. I'm man, what the? But sometimes he'll just go bot 4 as well. But in general, it's a player that's just people who play lines like that that are a little more off the standard path and can still perform well. I find them very interesting as players. I have respect for styles that I don't particularly play, and so it's always neat to just look and see how other people approach TFT.
Okay. All right. Definitely. Last thing I want to say is Darth plays a lot of mobile, so really cool stuff. A lot of respect for that. Okay, Panny, it's time for you to also reveal your top 15, so we're going to go ahead and walk through it. Okay, so PannyAndrew's top 15, you start at the very top. The Grease on Dish Soap. Number 2, Replay. Number 3, Malala. Number 4, Setsuko. Weijin at 5, Spencer at 6, Greya at 7. And then Pokygom at 8. Milk at 9. And PannyAndrew put himself at 9A, which I don't understand what that means, but he'll explain in a second. Then Goobums, Ramblin' Robin, Prestivan, Mismatch Socks, and Kurum to wrap up the top 10 to 15. So, PannyAndrew, let's go ahead and just start off at the one where it includes yourself here. You put yourself at 9A. What does that mean?
Can we understand what the list is?
Oh, first? Yeah. What is your top 15 is? What is this?
My top 15 best players in North America. That was
right now.
Right now.
No, right now.
Okay, so if they were going to play a tournament tomorrow, this is your power ranking.
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what does PannyAndrew at 9A mean?
Oh, I mean, I just got 9th at the tournament, so I'm the 9th best player in America. I mean, by that logic, Kien should have been 8th, but like, not bad.
Well, I mean, I didn't rank myself because like it's like cool guys don't look at explosions. I'm not like
That's true.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I just put myself at 9th because 9th place. GG's. But yeah, I think the list is pretty like Dishsoap is uncontested the best player, like top 8 at TOC, top 2 at Thingy, at the Tacticians Cup. Just overall beast, proven worlds. Like he's just the best player right now. I feel
Okay.
like most people agree.
And Replay at second is a pretty contentious take. I think literally no one in the world would agree with you because Replay would be the person that's closest, but he put himself at 1. So like the consensus on Replay is he's either 1 or he's like 4/5. It's interesting. What do you? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I don't know anything about any of these people. Like I've never talked to any of them. Like maybe Pocky. Yeah, I never talked to any of them. So like I don't know like how they study or how they play. But the extent of how much I know them, not to get too parasocial, is by watching their streams. And so I just averaged like ladder performance, the tournament performance, how many games played. And I was like, you know what? Like isn't Replay actually a beast? Like he like top 2, 3 forward at the TOC. Performed better than Malala at the last cup. Has like, I think he's above Malala on ladder right now with like less games. I'm not sure if that's 100% true. So I was like, given all this, like, if there's an alien invasion and I got Dishsoap, like, it's a duo tourney, I'm putting Dishsoap and Replay. Actually, I'll probably put Replay and T-Lads in there. But like, probably.
Yeah, there's no way you're fucking pairing Soap and Replay, man. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my favorite. And then Malala, same thing, like good tournament performances, good on ladder. Setsuko, I mean, I think Setsuko is everybody's best player, to be honest. Like in their heart of hearts.
But wait, why is he 4th? You just think he's out of form?
I just can't put him there when he has just less consistent results in the top 3. Like,
whoa. That's a pretty hot take.
Recently, right now, don't play the Setsuko. Setsuko's a beast. Best
But it's
player,
not
best
even
ladder.
right now. It's like one tournament. Prior to Tacticians Cup number 2, there was like a outrageous stat. I actually kind of said it so many times, I'm surprised I forgot it. But something like Setsuko played in 16 tournaments, and he top 16'd or better in 14 of them. And the one where it doesn't count was like Vegas because you can't really top 6. It's like so hard to top 16 in that lobby. And the one time he didn't was like he got like 20th or something like that. Like his consistency was out friggin' outrageous. So that's why a lot of people were just kind of like permanently putting Setsuko at 1 in their minds because he was dominating ladder and tournaments for a while. But to your fair, it's your list. I'm just counterpointing to the Setsuko fans because there's a lot of Setsuko stands out there.
I'm the biggest Setsuko fan. So it
Really?
pained me when I had to put him at 4th. Dude,
How are you evaluating Greya? How does Greya? Have you watched Greya play?
Oh no, but Pokygom glazes Greya like turbo, infinite, and then like he was like, and I learned that Greya did a PhD in physics, and then those PhDs
What? I
in physics
didn't
are
know
actually
that.
the smartest people in the world. Like their learning capabilities are out by any other doctor in the world. So I was like, Greya gets my 7th.
What? This actually confirms our theory. There's like a theory in TFT that you either are insanely capable and intelligent and sophisticated, or you dropped out of like college or high school and your GPA is probably like your average placement, like in the 3s or low 2s.
I think it specifically has to do with academic performance. We're like a reverse bell curve. So like, sure, there's some people in the middle, but like almost all of our distribution is way high achievement and then a lot of very, very poor achievement in school.
I'm pretty sure because like some of the other like high potential great players like Nubao and Bursaurus also skew in this like elite 0.00001%.
Yeah, I mean DQA is like a
DQA.
4-point student while not really trying.
Yeah, I think DQA is graduating magna
early.
cum laude with like perfect scores while still like being competitive in TFT and having made worlds in his college career, which is really impressive. And he's graduating early, which is just like incredible. Really fascinating stuff. Okay, by the way, just as a small thing, how did you get in touch with Pokygum? Because you're like saying like I'm in touch with Pocky, he's like my mentor, but a lot of people don't even get that pleasure or that privilege of being able to do that. How did you get in touch with him?
So I know Kai, the streamer,
Hi.
Watanabe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh,
Kai. I met Kai at
Kai.
Vegas. Kai Watanabe at
Yeah.
Vegas. He invited me to co-stream with him, and then somehow Pocky got into Kai's Discord, and then was a part of their study group. And then I was like, oh, and then I added Pocky on ladder one time, and it worked because he saw that I was in the box boot camp. And then, so now he knows like the name PannyAndrew's in his mind. And I was like, okay, he knows like of me at least somewhat. And I was like, hey, can we like sit down sometime if you have time, anytime, to just like look over a bot, I have some questions about what I did wrong. And then, yeah, so I kind of like took all like I'm not like I'm not like big or anything, but I took like the very small amount I had, like name recognition, and I was like, fuck it, like it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst thing that happens is that he ghosts me. Like, yeah, but like if you're a viewer. And I don't know. Like I feel like it's not something normal.
So you guys heard it. Please, you guys should ask PannyAndrew. You guys should ask PannyAndrew to VOD review. That's how you'll get attention, because then you'll get the Pocky Gum. So PannyAndrew's your gateway.
He's a gateway. Yeah.
If you guys want to VOD review his Pocky Gum, make sure to ask the right guy. Ask PannyAndrew. Okay.
Yep, I'm the guy.
All right.
By the way, what a homie that he did respond and that he did hop on and he did VOD review with you. Good guy, Pocky.
Yeah.
Good guy, Pocky.
Okay, we don't have that much time for the agrees, so I only have a couple. I'm going to go start with one of them. Here's the first one that's kind of been it's been thrown out around a lot in terms of chats and conversation groups. Most complaints about the state of the game are due to burnout more than supposed fundamental issues about the game. People are saying like, hey man, you're complaining about all this, yippity yap. Heat set 11, hate encounters, balances this, more dog that. Actually, the reality is you're just burnt out on TFT and maybe you should take a break, or just like you're expecting too much out of it. Do we agree with that? PannyAndrew.
Who's complaining? Like most complaints by who?
Oh, I
TFT
mean, complaints like by streamers, by chatters, by Redditors, by just frankly like the general discourse of TFT.
I think like streamers, I mean, I could definitely see it due to burnout. Like, I mean, Setsuko has like 1,200 games, Soju has like similar amount of games. But I don't really hear them complain that much, other than like the egregious encounters. But like most complaints, like most people don't play enough games, or they're so distracted while playing the game that like you can't even really complain. Like, and they're also like, I don't know, I feel like you need to reach a certain level. That's why I never complain. #wholesome. Like I'm not good enough to complain, and so like I feel like you need to reach a certain state to like even be granted the privilege. And like obviously like due to burnout, if you stream the game, it's your job, then obviously it definitely plays a factor. Like I don't even have that many games. The 36 games on the 2 weekends, I was like 4 to 9 every single day. Like I quit my 9 to 5 not to do this shit. Like it's actually way too many games. So I can definitely see how it's due to burnout for sure.
Okay. So is that agree?
Seems like
Agree.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay, agree. Kien, what do you think?
Oh, I agree for sure. I think that, especially like when I'm reading, let's say the like competitive TFT subreddit, which is like honestly a waste of time to read often, is a lot of people complaining about balance, or like I think balance is the thing. I want to go on a rant real quick, which is a lot of people complain about balance, and I think that's fine if balance is making you not have fun for whatever reason. Let's say it's like Warwick was an example where like 7 people in the lobby are playing Warwick. I think that's actively not fun. That's a big balancing issue. But in general, people complain about balance as a way to like compensate for them not being able to climb. It's like, oh, you know, I would be able to climb if the game was balanced, and that's just not true. Most of the time, like you're not climbing because you suck. It has nothing to do with balance. It's like, unfortunately, the reality of it is, and I look at this in other games as well. Is like in Valorant, for example. Like, yeah, I can get mad at it, but like if you traded Demon 1 out for me, in my exact same spot, he would probably win the game. And I think that's something you have to think about in TFT as well. Like the last time I made a Smurf, I won my first 11 games on a fresh account. Most challenger players can hit masters with a 90+% top 4 rate, with like a 30+% win rate. You being stuck has nothing to do with the state of game balance. It has everything to do with you just being a bad player. And I wish that is something that the competitive TFT subreddit would kind of realize a bit quicker. You would have a lot more fun with the game if you realize you suck, it's like even highest level players are like, oh, I fucking suck. You watch Soldier's stream, he's like, oh, I fucking suck. You watch anybody's stream, they'll be like, oh, I suck. And I wish people would be able to take that mentality a little more often, and not focus so much on balance, which is just gonna vary. Like it's like sometimes it's not very good, and sometimes it is. If you've been playing TFT for as long as I have been, though, I can tell you for sure that overall the balancing in TFT is so much better now as a whole than it was in the past. Like as a whole, they in general they've gotten so much better at fine tuning the balance. And I do feel like we are maybe becoming a little privileged to that at this point as a community. And I do hope that if you are complaining about balance, it has more to do with whether it's fun or not. But also if it's not fun, just go do something else, man. There's so many other games out there. There's so many things you can do with your life that aren't complaining about TFT. But if you choose to complain about TFT because you feel like you're hard stuck, it's not because of balance. You're hard stuck because you suck, and that is ultimately that's just a fundamental fact. And I hope, like if there's anybody in there complaining about balance and being stuck right now, you're stuck because you suck, and that is that's always gonna be true.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Mad cause bad.
It's true for a lot of people, but what about the top players? You know, that is something that they get to. They're like, well, yeah, I'm good enough to complain about the game. That's a different discussion entirely, but I do want to move on.
At the highest level, like balance complaining from like Setsuko, like yeah, of course he should complain about balance because it actually affects you at the top level. In tournament play, it affects you. This should have every right to complain about balance, but for the vast majority of players, especially on the competitive TFT subreddit, like come on, man, just shut up. Like don't you
okay.
Ask you need to post that. You just don't post it.
All right, Bryce, what do you think?
I'm going to disagree with the statement. I don't think most is due to burnout. I actually kind of, building on what Kien said, I think most is actually due to people being idiots, right? Like most people who complain in any gaming environment really don't have the chops to be able to complain, if that makes sense. Now, I do think it's fair and valid to complain about balance if it's making your experience less fun. I just think a lot of people, to Kien's point, are quick to blame balance when that's not actually what's causing it to be less fun. They're like mad at their results and they're looking for something to blame other than themselves, which is why most people don't improve at things, because they look for things to blame other than their own actions, decision making, prioritization, etc. But the thrust of this agree, though, I do think I really disagree with, which is if we're looking at like the elite players, right? There's a lot of elite players that are specifically, so not most people, just narrowing the field of their complaints. There's definitely some burnout for sure, but I think that there are very legitimate fundamental issues with TFT, and I think that there's a lot of very fair things to complain about. I think it is very much an open question whether the bag size changes are a good thing overall for TFT. I think that there are very fair questions as it relates to what has happened to set mechanics since set 6, which for me have been a miss literally every single time. I don't think there's been a single set mechanic since set 6 when augments originally came out that I thought made the set better. I think they've all made it worse, and some of them have made range from making it worse to making it much worse, in my opinion. I think that's very, very fair things to be complaining about. And I also think the direction on balance, for me, not looking at an individual patch, but holistic direction on balance, for me, is deeply problematic. And I think there's a bunch of people who have talked about this that has really resonated with me. One of them has been Ramkev, where he's talked about a lot of, look, there's been almost no incentive to play level 6 for this entire fucking set. There's almost no incentive to roll before level 8 this entire fucking set. And every single time they patch, and it doesn't seem like there's any even attempt to address that. It feels like we're very fine with a meta state in general in TFT, not just for this set, but for last set as well, where stylistic flexibility is not something they prioritize. I was really deeply disappointed to see this most recent patch because it felt like, okay, outside of hero augments and 4 costs, what are we really playing? And it doesn't feel like there was any attempt to address that problem. I think TFT is a much, much better, healthier game when there's a meaningful amount of 1 cost reroll, 2 cost reroll, 3 cost reroll being played, when 4 costs are all pretty solid. None of them are like garbage tier. None of them are completely broken. And that is a possible meta state to get to. It's really hard, and they're going to get it wrong. And I'm fine with them getting it wrong. But what I am starting to get really concerned about, which is I think a fundamental issue, is it doesn't seem like the balance team has the same goal in mind for what good TFT looks like to what I have in mind in my head, and that is troubling to me because I would want to see them keep pushing to get to a balanced state. I think the set could play a lot better and more open than it does, even if I have some design issues with the set. And it feels like we're starting to get to these modes in set 10 and in set 11 where we like get to an okay state and we kind of throw in the towel on like the dream balance state and say it's good enough. For me, it still falls below the bar of what I would consider good balance. So I think there are a lot of people out there with very valid complaints, and I am hesitant to clump it all together and say that, well, you're just burned out. I don't actually think that's fair.
Okay, that was a very thorough explanation. So Bryce disagrees with the premise.
Disagrees.
Just the summaries. I agree because I just think a lot of the complaint, or rather, I think I agree with the premise or the spirit of the question, because I think ultimately I don't think a lot of people understand what they're truly complaining about. I think they're complaining around some of their problems. It's not just like they're hard stuck and they're like necessarily bad, but I think a lot of them don't understand what they're actually mad at. And I think a lot of it is things of just like, I think TFT is a game that's been out for a while now. It's no longer a new shiny thing. I think people have understand what it's like to play all kinds of styles, rerolls, go for crazy Fast 9 boards, go for hero augments, do crazy crab rave stuff. And I think for some people, they're just literally bored of the game and they want more out of it that I don't think really exists in a reasonable way because of, well, that's just not what TFT can offer. Plus, I think we already added enough to the game. If you want even more novelty, if you want even more crazier things, it's almost difficult to ask for more of that, given what TFT is. So I agree with like what the question is coming from. I'm not going to be like technical about like, well, it's not most, it's some. I'm going to say a lot, and so I'm going to soft agree there. That being said, I actually very much disagree with you, Bryce, on a lot of what you said, which is not that your feelings are invalid, but I think that ultimately what people are asking for out of TFT these days is not something that I think can be attained the way that they want to. So when you say good balance, what you want as good balance is not actually good balance to a lot of other players. And I think that's where I think the big disconnect is. I think more than ever, TFT is growing. And this is actually a sign of a growing player base. But there's millions and millions of players that want one thing, and there's millions of players that want another thing. And now there's almost like a hostility of like, well, you're prioritizing them over us. And because Riot has to kind of like split the baby or choose one side very definitively on a couple of issues like variants, like resources, like augments and mechanics, there's so many people, Bryce, that love hero augments. There's so many people that really like a bunch of augments, and you're like saying like, you know, objectively worse for the game. It's not true.
Yeah. Sorry. To be clear, when I say objectively worse the game, I'm talking about from my perspective, and I agree that the development team needs to be doing probably greatest good for the greatest number is the right way of thinking about it. But what I will say is, it's starting to feel more and more to me like the trend for TFT is away from the game that I fell in love with.
Pushing players like you away.
And that's okay if that's where the game needs to go to grow and be successful. Like, I can live with the fact that what I want out of this game is different from what other people want out of this game, but I think there is fair to complain about that direction, which is where my answer is coming from.
Yeah. People giving Bryce grief on the technical. He's speaking like from his worldview of just like, this has to be objectively worse for the game. He's postulating right now.
So I'm saying, if you start with my assumptions, it's objectively worse, right? Like, and by the way, when I objectively in that context, it is objectively more balanced to be able to play more units. That means it's a more balanced game state. Dan is saying that might not be objectively correct for the game, and that good enough balance might actually be the correct way of approaching it, which is totally fair.
Yes.
I just want to add to that real quick. It's like, and part of the reason, like in terms of like what is fun for the average player, like you brought up Ramkev's example of a 3-2 roll down on level 6, which has been the case in a lot of older sets. And like personally, I find a 3-2 roll down fun as well. I think playing level 6 and level 7 can be fun, but it's probably not that fun for the average player base because it's very difficult for the average player base to know, like, you know, what is a level 6 board, or what's a good level 6 board going to be given the meta. And when you can fix that, and this is a balancing design philosophy that I've thought about for a while, is what cost of units are you going to balance the game around? And so for me, oftentimes the healthiest metas and the ones I have tended to like is when it's a 3 cost range carry is the units that they're balancing the game around. Is I find those metas often can be very healthy, but lately I feel like a lot of the balancing has been centered around 4-cost range carries. And so what has happened is if 4 costs are the carries in the game, what tends to happen is the 3 costs end up being supplemental support units or trait bots, and then the 5 costs have also become trait bots more than they are actually carries. The other way you would balance this then is you would have 4 costs be the support trait units or the trait bots, and you would have 3 and 5 costs kind of be the main carries. I think these are kind of two very different approaches to how you design a set. And what has happened is once with the introduction of like level 10, for example, it's become harder for them to balance around 5 costs. People have complained about 5 cost carries being too dominant in the past. It can be very anti-fun for people once people get their 5 costs online. I'm thinking of like Aurelian Soul driving around the board in old sets. I'm thinking of Singed running around in old sets. I'm thinking of the big dragons that would blast your board. It's fun for the person piloting it, but it can be very anti-fun for the people that are going against it. And I think one of the things that has happened is they've decided we like these 4-cost backline carries, the Ashes of the world, the Cinders of the world, that are just kind of front to back. They feel very standard. They're not that unfun to play against. They're very straightforward. Like front to back is just way easier in terms of just thinking about it and in terms of presentation. And once you and if you have a meta that's centered around 4 cost, it has to be a level 8 roll down based on the way the the odds are for finding units in your shop. Because if you have to roll on 6, you also have to roll on 7, and you have to roll on 6 and you have to roll on 7. That means your 3 costs have to be viable end game carries. And just the way they're designing the game right now, that's not something that's happening, because if you're stuck on 6, 7, you're not going to get to level 10. The way they're balancing the game means like they want you to get to 8, they want you to have a path to potentially get to 10 for a cap out. And so for me, it's just like it's a very fundamental difference in terms of how you approach design. You could make the argument that having 3 cost carries and 5 cost carries is healthy for the game, but I think it's just a growing pain issue right now, thinking about like, because level 10 is a relatively new addition to the game. I think it might be a bit of time before they really figure out what's the best way to balance this. Is there a world in which 3 costs can fight equally with 4 costs, or does it have to be like a 3-star 3 cost? But like we have generally found that it's very difficult to balance a meta that has 3-star 3 costs be on the same footing as like a 2-star 4 cost, right? So
it's all interrelated to resource allocation too, right? Like it used to be really hard to get to level 8. You had to play a certain way and be really thoughtful about like how expensive your board was, making your econ intervals consistently, really protecting streak in order to actually have enough resources to fast 8. And now 8 means something different because level 10 exists and there's so much resources that you're just gonna get to 8 consistently with a lot of gold if you know how to play at all. So it used to be a much more complicated thing to pilot, and that used to create incentives around, if you can't do that, rolling to play a stronger stage 3 on level 6, right? And then continuing to roll on 7, and you play a different tempo. I like TFT when there's different tempos available to the player. I like having that agency.
Sorry, I was just going to say real quick, like the least fun I've ever had in TFT is anytime it's a level 7 meta where you're rolling for 4 costs. And I do think that they've done a great job avoiding that. And so at the very least, I think there are going to be growing pains. People aren't going to be as happy with some of the tempo things. Like I just released a guide on Twitter of how to play this set, which is basically I'm saying, if you want to play TFT right now, all you have to do is get to level 8 with 50 gold, and then you roll for an S tier comp. Like you don't, like literally nothing else matters. You don't have to roll anything before that. You don't even have to play that strong of a board going into it. You will have your resources. You only need some health to be able to make it. But sorry to cut you off there, Dan.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, promoting your guys, totally worth it. Do it on Twitter by all means. MeanMisterKien at Twitter. Also, if you're looking for a writer. I was gonna say a rioter. If you're looking for a writer to employ, pick up this guy. Also, if you need someone to also continue to coach you in TFT, because man, Kien goes, your rants are pretty epic at this point. I like it.
So good.
The one thing I will say is that I think a lot of people's lenses are colored, and I think it's important to bring this up. I think a lot of people's lenses are colored through what their previous experience is. Why can't the level 6 roll down feel like it did in the past? Why can't we play level 7 like we did in the past? Why can't this? Why can't that? Why in the past? And that's because TFT is under a new framework currently because of level 10, the way Kien had described. And so level 8 is not the same. People are saying, this is what my level 8 board looked like in the past. Well, guess what? Level 8 is different fundamentally now because of the way the scaling works. Level 8 is actually level 7.5, relatively speaking, and level 6 is more like level 5.5, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different things we can talk about it. And I think I'm not here to debate whether or not they should move the needle to the left or right. I'm here to say that I like that Riot takes swings. I like that they try and say, hey, what you thought before maybe doesn't work now. You talk about you want to roll a different temple price. The game is fundamentally different now because of the mechanics, because of the level of restructure. And that might change again. What if they add 6 costs? All of a sudden, our evaluations go out the window, and we're going to assume 5 costs should be the same power, but it's not. 6 costs are going to throw different things in the mix. And that's what makes, I think, TFT really interesting. I think that's what makes it really hard. And I want to say that as much as I do criticize TFT as time, I have to glaze and applaud their attempts at trying different things to make the game experience novel, because ultimately that's where TFT succeeds. If in 10 years from now we're still rolling on 3-2 for level 6, I think that's boring necessarily on the surface level. Like, you can make that as interesting as you want, but they have to play with different things. That's why we tried augments at different intervals. We tried it at 1-4, now we settled on 2-1. And now that's why I like aspects about encounters. They challenge you to think about the game differently. I want more different experiences, more puzzles to solve, and not just, well, every set, roll at 3-2 to be strong. Every set, roll at 4-2 at level 8 to get strong. Like, that is not interesting on the macro level and not going to, in my opinion, makes TFT succeed in the long run. So that's where my stance is. And I think we got to close it here because the podcast is running long. A lot of great discussion. I would love to hammer out more, but I kind of want to end on a positive note. I do think Riot is doing the right things, even if their path right now is not the right. They can always pivot and figure it out. Okay.
Panny, chat would like proof of life, by the way. Just wave to chat.
Proof of life? What do you mean?
From Panny.
Oh,
okay,
Panny.
good.
Yeah, sorry, Panny. I know we kind of iced you out of this conversation. I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, I haven't been playing for that long. Like sets 1 through 9, that's like Netflix sets. So,
all right. Milk says, can I challenge your take? Absolutely not. You have declined every podcast invite for multiple sets. You declined interviews. And lest I remind you what you actually responded to my interview question about the tournament. You said nopers and then changed the topic. So yeah, it sucks to be on the other side. Weird champ. Fantasy results, and let's close out the show. Congratulations, Bryce. 3 drafts in a row. I got second. I was in contention for a lot of it, but the problem is you were just always one player ahead. I actually, I can come clean. I did not want to draft Robin. I didn't think he was in that good form, but I was trying to bid him up because my value had him higher, and then he bailed out.
It was like, oh, Dan did not want Robin.
I did not want Robin. He cost me my draft, but that's okay. And then as for the other stuff, the bonus points actually swung it the other way. Robin goes last because Rambling got his bonus points correct. So Rambling saved himself the embarrassment by 1 point, and Robin Songs goes last there. So Bryce, victory speech.
I think this was a deserved win, to be honest. I mean, it's not just a victory; it's a victory with the most budget anyone has ever had left over in the history of a draft. and it was a completely my original draft strategy. I was going to get Dish Soap at all costs because I felt like he was a tier above everyone else. I bid him up to 75 and did not get him, so I had to. And I was correct about that, by the way. So I was correct in my initial draft strategy. I had to pivot draft strategies. There was just too much value left on the board. In the end, there was just too many good players left that were being undervalued, like Spencer and Replay, for example. So yeah, I mean, another W. I'm on a hot streak. I'm sure I'll go dead last next episode. But for now, I am back where I belong, the king of TFT fantasy.
All right. Congratulations, buddy. We're all really happy. And that brings us to the end of this episode. It was a pretty good one. It was really fun getting to know you guys. PannyAndrew, any final words? Thanks for joining, man.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I'm surprised I could focus for more than 30 seconds.
That's right.
Every
the fucking TikTok generation, man.
I have to go on TikTok right now. These guys are yapping about set balance.
Where can people find more of your content?
Oh, TikTok. Don't go on TikTok, man. Just give me your Prime sub. Yeah, whatever, GG. Watch this to come with ads and give me your Prime sub. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
You didn't even drop your Twitch link. Twitch.tv/
PannyAndrew. Yeah.
PannyAndrew. What's the Panny? Is that your
last name is Pan?
Oh, I see.
When I was 12, I was PannyAndrew is kind of lit. My first name is Andrew, to make this clear.
Got it. Well, that'd be really weird if it wasn't. But yeah.
It would be really funny if it wasn't. If Andrew was random, you're just a president, you're a fan of Andrew Spiro or something like that.
All right. Kien, final words. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you as well, Panny. I'm tired. I got nothing else. So
All right,
thanks.
great. Bryce.
Panny, I loved having you on. It was great to meet you. Kien, I really enjoyed. I love talking to you. It was so much fun. When the thing ended, my only message, I was like, I want Kien on, and then we'll who do you think goes with Kien? Basically, this guy. Which, by the way, you owe us some singing. Maybe you close out the show with some singing as well.
Maybe on my stream. Maybe on my stream. Wow.
Yeah, but it was a really fun episode. I enjoyed all the yapping. Dan had trouble keeping us under control, which is always a fun sign. Last thing I want to say is that, completely unrelated to TFT, but not really, because he's really into TFT. My law firm promoted someone to partner today. It's the first time in years we've done that. He is a mod in this channel, Purple Pouring. He is an OG TFT player. So if people can just drop some congratulations to Purple Pouring in the chat, pouring parties in the chat, I'd really appreciate it.
He's in chat right now, actually.
He's in chat. He's an awesome human, awesome attorney, and we are very lucky to make him a partner. So plus he's into TFT. So great in all of the ways. Balanced as all things should be.
All right. +1 on that. Congratulations, Yen. Awesome. And thanks for contributing. My final words, Milk, start playing the game. Then you can come in and challenge my opinion. I'm more than happy to have you. Or maybe just join the co-stream. If you miss any part of this episode, check us out. YouTube.com/@DTIYDK for the video. Audio is Anchor.fm/DTIYDK. Catch us all on social media. X.com/DTIYDK show. Our next episode is going to be the preview for Tactician's Cup number 3. From Frodan, Bryce, Mr. Kien, and PannyAndrew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more TFT action.